Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, hello.
A bit of aggression on a 65 Telecaster.
Where's all my mid-range gone, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So DS-1 is the news. Why?
Boss has released the Waza version of the DS-1. Waza!
Yeah.
So, of course, we are compelled to have a look.
We are, but before that, some housekeeping.
Indeed. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. If you have, start a new channel and subscribe again. Also, a massive thank you to anyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and grabbed some merchandise. It's primarily what funds the show, so t-shirts, hats, cups, pedals, strings, all there.
A smorgasbord of
veritable smorgasbord
of lovely quality merch that you can buy in time for the festive season, if indeed you're watching that before this or that. Yeah, and go to that pedal shop in the USA. Did we say that?
No, we haven't.
Yes.
And also thanks to our Patreons and Patrons.
Yeah, and other things.
All that stuff.
All that.
Right, so let's begin.
Yeah.
What we've got on the board today, we've got 3 DS1s. The one on the right-hand side is a vintage DS1 from April 1980. So the DS1 was brought out in the late 70s, 78 or 79.
I got 78 in my head.
78.
We did do a show on the DS1 specifically a year or so ago. Might have been a bit longer. Please go and watch that if you want some background on the DS1.
Yep.
Probably don't need to go over all that today, but that was about, I think it's called You're Using Your DS1 All Wrong.
Yes.
Which we are doing today, as you're about to find out.
Right. So we've got the vintage DS1. Then we've got a more modern DS1. It is pre-2016. Halfway through 2016, they changed the board from through-hole to surface mount, and that's still a through-hole board. And then we've got the brand new DS1 Waza, which is a mixture between through-hole and surface mount. It's a similar building style as the where'd it go? The ODR1. That's a mixture between the Nobles.
And that seems to be fairly common in modern pedal manufacturer. So 1980, by and large, the modern production version, and then the Waza premium version.
Yeah, well, that's the pre-2016.
Yeah.
And then the Waza.
Give or take a few surface mount components.
Indeed.
And we've got some other stuff on the board to offer some different tonal palettes. The challenge was Dan and I also then had to pick our own favourite distortion pedal for the day. Dan has picked the JHS Angry Charlie version, who knows? Or is it the AT?
No, that's the original one.
Yeah. Oh, it's the original one.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So version something. And I've picked the Jam Pedals Rattler.
Nice.
Which is born of a rat, obviously. All right, then. Where do we start, Daniel?
So, the sound of a DS1. It is, as Mick pointed out, it's quite mid-scoopy. Now, originally when these came along, they were designed to go into like amps that were cranked. And the massive bottom end and the really fizzy top end just gave those amps a really interesting character.
Yeah, on the subject of amps, by the way, we've got our 50-watt Plexi Marshall, which is attenuated a little bit, so that it will crunch up a tiny bit. And we've got the PRS HDRX20, which is a 20-watt version of the circuit of Hendrix's amp. So it is also Marshall Plexi derived.
Well, I have one Marshall. We can have two Marshally.
Marshally things. Yeah, we like it for the spread and the largeness of the sound.
Indeed. And it's a pedal that's been used, so the original one on the right, that design didn't change until 96. So all of the famous artists that that have used one have used that circuit.
Wow.
So, yeah, we'll do a bit of single coil, a bit of humbucker.
Yeah, we'll play some different guitars too. So if you don't see a guitar that's familiar to you, we don't have a heavy rock guitar, so we won't be doing that. But we've got classic guitars with humbuckers, single coils, maybe even some P90s, who knows?
Yeah, indeed. We'll start with this, Mick. If you want to just go through the distortion range.
Yeah.
The layout on a DS1's interesting as well. The little knob in the center, which most people think is the tone control, is actually the level control, and the tone control is a big knob on the left-hand side.
All right. Go on then.
So, here's my clean tone. So the amp's just giving up a little bit.
Just a bit, and the extra push from the pedal will hair that up even more. Amp end. Are you hearing that horrible top end here?
I'm hearing a horrible top end everywhere.
Okay, good. Let us proceed. I'm glad it's not just me.
No. But the tone control is really powerful. You can so basically there's a point where that fizz goes away.
Keep going. That's not the frequency I was hearing. So that is like an upper mid cut.
Right.
The frequency I'm hearing, I think, is the Alnico speakers going.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll stick with it. All right, let's do that experiment with humbuckers then. Cool, man. Just absolutely classic distortion.
Yeah.
The guitar I wish we had here, which we don't, is like a Super Strat kind of thing with a humbucker in the bridge.
Right.
We don't have that, but this is nothing like that at all. So I guess comparison then?
Yeah. So
Actually, before we do, sorry, Dan.
Les Paul.
No,
No?
I'm just going to try a Strat.
Oh yes, of course.
If only we had a vintage Strat.
I'm really interested to hear this.
Cool.
I think that sounds ace.
It's Rewind. There were quite a few Strat players as the late 70s turned into the 80s,
Right.
who needed a distortion box.
Indeed.
And it's a thing. It's got so much drive in it. It almost gets to the point where it doesn't matter.
what pickups you got?
Yeah, what's in there.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably leave the Strat alone for the rest of the video.
Okay.
But just as a, you know.
Yeah, that's what a Strat sounds like with a cranked vintage DS-1. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah. Cool.
Very good. Okay. We'll have just a quick listen to the more modern version. And they're very similar. There's a slight bump in the mid-range in the more modern version.
Okay, you play. Exactly what you said. Not to my ears anyway, the 1980 has more of your classic smiley face.
Yep. Bit scoopier.
EQ, and the modern one's got a bit more mid in it, which to me is a happy place.
Sure. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'll just do that with some single note stuff. So to see if that comes through. Yeah. And some double stops.
Yeah. It's groove hinge. I know it's a sound that you don't dig as much as I
wouldn't say that.
It's
not home for me.
It's not home for you.
But I love it.
There you go. That's what I mean. Yeah, there's something about it is so rock and roll. There's so much bottom end and fizz and stuff going on there.
Yeah.
And you can see where the metal zone came from when you hear this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it is, it's the sound of the 80s. You know, when you hear that, or that stuff going on, it's like, that's what they used.
Do it.
Oh, man.
Come on.
Or that Shenana guy.
Small round of applause for doing that. For playing
very small.
For playing the rock guitar.
Very small.
Good. All right. So then, what have they done with Waza?
So one of the very common mods to do on a DS-1 is to give it more mid-range.
Yeah.
Scoop it, tighten up the bottom end a little bit. So you've got a switch there that goes between standard.
That's common to, I think, all of the... If you don't know, the Waza Craft series is a made-in-Japan, higher-end version of lots of very much loved Boss pedals, including things like the blues driver, the super overdrive, actually even the chromatic tuner. There's a Waza metal zone.
Yeah.
And the DS-1 is part of that series. And each one of them has that standard and custom mode switch.
Indeed. Now, the standard, I couldn't quite get the standard DS-1 sound. See if you can, with the switch, I'll switch between, you play for a bit.
Yeah.
And I'll switch between the more modern one and the Waza and see how close I can get to that sound. It's pretty close, but there's a bottom end that they've tightened up a little bit, even in the standard mode.
Yeah.
But now, when we go to the custom mode, I'll have to turn it down because there's a massive volume jump.
Oh, no!
But if you play... I love your rock playing. It's fantastic. It's so good.
I was trying to do some riffy stuff, some single note stuff, just to give you an idea of that.
So I'm going to put some delay and reverb on now.
Yeah.
With that sound, and you'll hear how that extra mid range just lends itself to.
I've got to say, I really, really like it, and
Yeah.
it almost stitches nicely with what we're going to get onto with the other kinds of distortion
Indeed.
pedals, I think.
Indeed.
I'd just like to say a big thank you to PRS for inventing the PRS tremolo,
Right.
which works.
It's really nice.
If you're wondering why I'm playing this guitar, Paul came into the show just recently, and if you haven't watched that, please watch it. And he kind of inspired me to play this guitar a bit more again.
Yeah.
Just
That's a great sounding guitar.
spending time with him inspired me to pick it up again. So, plug the Lester in a minute as well. But.
So what I'll do, the Waza set up like that. I'm going to get you to play through stuff, and then I'm going to switch back to the vintage one, and then you'll hear just how why that. I'll turn the distortion up a little bit more, but you'll hear the massive difference.
There's the sweet spot, Dan. You know that, don't you?
I do. I know.
You know that.
I know. Okay. Here you go. bit of halo, Andy Tippman's halo delay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, with these particular amps, even with this guitar, which is a mid-range heavy guitar, I am loving the extra mid-range.
Yeah, it's great. And so it's a really common mod. There's loads of different mod kits that you can buy to do that. There's a great Analog Man mod that gives you a mid-range control actually on the DS-1. Okay. The really cool thing about the Center DS-1, which is the pre-2016, is because the layout on the circuit board, it uses big components and they're laid out in a way that's really easy to change things.
So you can mod it, whereas the modern Surface Mount one, just a bit more difficult.
Impossible.
Okay.
Like, for even really skilled guys, it's all like
nothing
almost
is
impossible,
Dan.
Yeah. So
okay then. Sorry for interrupting.
You're right.
Go.
No. I'm done. Go.
What I was going to suggest then, let's hear you play, because we were comparing these two, weren't we?
Yes.
Let's hear these two then.
Okay.
We know this one's got a bit more of a mid kick in it anyway.
Yep.
And just for the halibut, going to switch some flanger on.
Okay. Let me just Okay.
Okay. Here's my clean tone. Actually, let's send some love to Andy for a second, who's recovering from viral meningitis.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. Andy, much love. Andy Demos.
Oh man,
sending you love.
Yeah, mate. Hope you're feeling much better.
This rock will hopefully help.
This is clean tones for you.
Yeah, man. Flanger, turn that on for a number of reasons. One, we really like it. Two, it's part of that world. Mm-hmm. Three, what happens in the mid-range, well, what happens right across the frequency spectrum, but what happens in the mid-range with the flanger is really interesting. And that, the new Waza with the extra mids was making the flanger more prominent. To me. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. There is something in the very sizzle top end with the older ones that I like. But in all honesty, just that extra mid-range kick's enough to, because that doesn't lose, it tightens up the bottom end a little bit, but still has that that you want from a DS-1.
I mean,
it's very cool.
Does it make it not a DS-1?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, but good
Because
to have the option.
because that is the sound of the DS1. Is that really when I hear the vintage one and it's so scoopy and it's so fat and it's so fizzy, it's like that's what that thing does.
And also, if you watch our previous video, it makes sense into a cranked old school Marshall because the particular peak of upper mid-range bark in one of those old Marshalls is what fills in the part of the hole that's missing. It's not missing, it's just all part of the tone soup, right?
Indeed.
One would assume that when they were voicing it back in 78 or 77, whenever they started work on it, they were using those cranked amps.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I've got to say, so far, I would take that one.
Yeah.
Which is convenient because it's new, but
sure.
the extra mid-range is what my ears want to hear.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. Let's put that into context then by comparing it to two other really popular distortion pedals. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So when JHS released this back in the day, this was the pedal that Andy Timmons first used when, what was it, the effects loop on his amp stopped working. He had to go straight into the clean channel.
Yeah, he needed an overdrive pedal to replicate the drive channel of his amp because something had gone wrong in his amp.
Yeah. And they grabbed this and was like, there you go. And it's this one.
And then it morphed in. Andy actually has a AT signature version of it, but this is. You say this is the original one?
I think this is
because
the
there have
back
been
in the day.
Numerous versions over the years.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah, it's close, right?
Much closer.
Much closer. I actually prefer the way the Waza cleans up.
Yeah.
But you can see there was a direction that happened with the mid-range and distortion pedals.
Yeah.
You know?
Because if we now just take the mid-range back out again, so your ears have now got accustomed to hearing all that extra mid-range, we'll do the same comparison, and while he's playing the DS1, I'll switch back to the standard mode. You could even go as far as to say, as that replacement of mid-range was kind of what happened as the 80s turned into the 90s.
Yeah.
And all the genre that were post-classic rock, if you like, started to put more mid-range back into their heavier tones.
Sure.
And that's reflected in the load of pedals that came after, and perhaps explains a little bit why they put the custom mode in the DS-1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting when you hear it like that with it all scooped out again. I mean, it's the sound, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And certainly if you were tracking guitars and you wanted something to sit.
Yes, that. Super important. Super important.
The point being that if you're tracking guitars and you want it to sit out the way of the vocals, scooping that mid-range out is hugely helpful, because you could say that when we were listening to that, the Angry Charlie was way louder. I don't know what the dB meter was saying, but the perception is that it's a lot louder because all those mids are there.
Yeah, yeah.
Similarly, if you're in the band and it's verse time,
those mids are going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about context and what you want it to do, even though in a sort of straight comparison, it might not sound as impressive a sound.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, then. So Rattler is Jam Pedals' take on the very famous Proco Rat pedal. When Dan and I first put the Rattler on the board 3-4 years ago, maybe, we were like, oh my goodness me. We love that. So much so that we did a TPS special edition one. So anyway, wanted to put it on because the Rat sits in a hugely important part of distortion pedal history. So it's derived of that. Sorry for the stuck record, just trying to give you grounds for comparison.
Boy, oh boy, that was close.
But more mid.
More mid.
A lot more vocal mid-range. I think you'd hear it more. Let me just do some neck pickup, single neck stuff a minute. Sorry for the fluffs. A bit flutier.
Indeed.
And that's why I pick it as my favourite kind of distortion pedal.
Sure.
Because it has that fluty. That fluty starts to make sense.
In El Stratty Boo. You should play like that more often, man. You sound freaking great doing that stuff.
Bless you. It's easy when there's loads of distortion on there.
So
that's why we love distortion pedals. So
with the humbuckers, it was closer, but what you're hearing is that, you know, there's a difference in the really up at the top, the attack in that. There's a real bite to it, but that energy's moved down a little bit further in the jam that gives you that the upper mids, that flutiness. But when you change to that guitar, that really stood out.
Yeah, and if you went to a very mid-pushed humbucker, it might be too much. So it's all about mix and match, horses for courses.
Yeah.
Where do you like to sit? And of course, the filter control on a classic Rat, and indeed the tone control on that, opens up a whole other world as well. But that's kind of where I like it.
Yeah. Very cool.
Where are you then, Dan?
Well, I think that the Waza is a very welcome addition to the DS-1 family.
Yeah.
For the reasons that you said about in a track with a vocal mix, the sound of the original DS-1 is a classic thing, and I can't get that from the Waza version. It's not, the bottom end isn't as fat and ridiculous as it is in the classic one. However, with the, in the custom mode with that extra mid range, it still has the fizz.
Yeah.
And that's really important. That the attack of the note that it has.
Yeah.
So it's still got that, but it gets rid of the flub that tightens everything up. It does give you that bit more mid range, and I think it's certainly comparable to modern day distortion. There's a reason that mid mod is so popular.
Yeah.
You know.
So Boss have done it.
Yeah.
I suppose you might be screaming at the screen, well, if you just put an EQ either pre or post, you could probably do all of the above. If you shape.
Yeah.
What I don't know anyway, you may know, is where that mid boost is happening in the DS-1 Waza, whether it's a pre. Aye. We're off, mate. Sorry, the noise reduction on the vocals might remove that sound you just heard anyway. No noise reduction on the guitars, just so you're aware. I'm
expecting to go outside and see a mushroom cloud after that noise. Hey, just go and check for us, would you?
Don't joke. I don't know where the EQ is happening, whether it's pre or post gain in the DS-1, but for sure, if you had an EQ pedal pre or post a really nice old DS-1, you could pretty much do all of the above.
Yeah. Like classic mods, like changing the size of the input capacitor and all that stuff. It's
So if you wanted to achieve the sounds of the DS-1 with something you've already got, that would be one way to do it. But if you don't have one already, man, it just muddies the waters of the 58 billion distortion pedals available, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I'm sticking with me Rat, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't do that.
It doesn't do that.
And if you had a heavy rock player here with a super Strat style guitar
into a cranked Marshall,
which apologies that we don't have that.
Yeah, but that's so. I still have a very soft spot for that. For that original one. However, I do think that the Waza does sound fantastic.
It does.
Yeah.
Great job.
Very cool. There we go. That was really fun.
That was quite succinct for us.
Yeah. Nice.
Excellent.
Very good. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. A massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is
Anderton's Music of Guildford in Surrey, where you can probably buy all of this stuff.
Yeah. Also, our mates in Australia.
Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland, where you can probably buy most of this stuff.
Yeah. We might be seeing them next year for Christmas. Also, a massive thank you to anyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and grabbed merchandise.
Indeed, please do that. It's the primary way we fund this show. Another way is that pedalshop.com in the US, where, again, you can probably buy most of this stuff. That pedalshop.com if you're in the US or Canada and you want to buy pedals, amps, and accessories.
Yes. Our patrons at patreon.com. A massive thank you to you.
Monthly giveaways,
podcasts. It's a veritable smorgasbord of extraneous, wonderful things.
And endless love.
Indeed. Yeah. Thank you so much for your support.
Tout le monde.
Yeah. So, interested to see what you guys think. Please join us on Monday for viewers, comments, and questions at 5 p.m. English time, whatever that translates to where you are. Yeah.
Good.
But really interested to hear what you think.
I like the flanger. The flanger and the distortion.
It's very good.
Anyway. See you
Brilliant.
next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.